Welcome to CU Talks, the voice of the Conservative Union, conversation with real people from real places in America, not DC and not the media. My name is Leslie, and I'm here with Nikos and Antonio to bring you our thoughts on current events with a conservative and optimistic spin. And today we are a few days out from the GOP primary in 5 different states. That's on Tuesday. There's going to be, and obviously a Democrat primary as well, but we don't really care about them. So there's a GOP primary in Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, and Georgia, and Oregon. And so those 5 races are happening on Tuesday the 20th. And I'll just run through what I know of the 5 races. In Arkansas, that's currently a Democrat-held seat by Mark Pryor, and the word is that if we play our cards right, that can be a GOP pickup. So we might be able to, in November, defeat Mark Pryor if we play our cards right and support the race in Arkansas. It's not as important of a race for us to look at on Tuesday because there is really only one GOP candidate, and that's Tom Cotton. So he'll be winning the GOP primary Tuesday, and then it'll be important for us to focus on Arkansas as November gets closer so that we can then have Arkansas be one of the states that we pick up and increase our GOP majority. So that'll be important in November, but not really all that important right now. Idaho, currently held by the GOP candidate Risch, and he is running for re-election, and I'm pretty sure he's going to win the primary, and then he'll be re-elected. So Idaho's not a very major thing to really worry about too much. Kentucky, that's where Mitch McConnell.
Sadly.
Yeah, right.
Sadly, very sadly.
What about Kentucky?
Oh yeah, how about Mitch McConnell? Of course.
Well, Mitch gets a really bad rap. He is currently the Senate minority leader. He's going to be reelected. There's no way that Matt Bevin is going to knock him off his perch. So there's not really,
that's not that good.
There's not really that much point in paying too much attention to Kentucky because McConnell will win on Tuesday. McConnell is he's a tough campaigner. He is ruthless, and anybody who wanted to beat Mitch McConnell would have to be a much stronger politician than Matt Bevin is, and would have had to have much stronger financing, backing from major players, and Matt Bevin just isn't. He's just not the guy to do it right now, and that's okay. Mitch McConnell will be a good. He may not end up being the majority leader. I don't know if
they don't need to be.
I don't know if they do that by election, or if it's automatic if the GOP has the majority, then Mitch is the majority leader. I don't know, but he's okay. He's done some really good things, and I don't really have that much problem with Mitch winning in Kentucky.
I kind of do. He's an established. If he wins,
he will win. I mean, there's just no point in really.
But it's still the establishment getting their way, and we, the Tea Party, we, the conservatives, just sitting back and just letting the government just run us.
Well, and that's where, since Mitch McConnell isn't going to be defeated, it's period. The key to weakening the establishment is not to focus on defeating Mitch McConnell, but on bringing people in who will be like Mike Lee and Ted Cruz, and bringing in, in the races where we can affect and where we can choose via the primary, bringing in really good people. And I think
so Mitch McConnell basically becomes the minority.
Well, where he gets right now, Mitch and his establishment people, they are the majority of the GOP, and they tell Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Rand Paul to roll over. But if
and that helps them.
And if Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and Rand Paul have a bigger army standing on their side, then they can, you take over. You don't take over from the top down. You take over from the bottom up. You bring in the new guys, and you make the Cruz, Lee, Paul faction stronger and more popular, and you make that be the cool kids, that some of the fence sitters want to join them rather than joining in with the Mitch McConnells. Because the fence sitters in the Senate, and there have been some GOP guys there for years who aren't really one way or the other. They just want to be popular and they want to be reelected. That's all they care about. And they will go along with whatever Mitch McConnell tells them to do, because if they go along with McConnell, then they get reelected. But if we, the Tea Party people, make it more beneficial for them to side with Ted Cruz, then they will possibly side with Ted Cruz. If we make it that the Cruz, Lee, Paul group of GOP senators is the cool kids, and that's where it's happening, and that's where the funding is, and that's the good guys, then there are enough people in the GOP Senate that they would start to side with them rather than Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell wants to be popular and well-liked as well. And there are a couple of times over the last few years that we've seen Mitch McConnell even trying to align himself with the Tea Party faction. He wants to be one of the cool guys too. And he has the credentials to do it. He's not a big government guy. I mean, he very much is. He's very much a defender of free speech and First Amendment rights and all of these kind of things. He can side with Rand Paul on a lot of Rand Paul's issues legitimately. And if we make it cool for Mitch McConnell to do so, he will do so. We're not gonna defeat the establishment by defeating Mitch McConnell. We defeat the establishment by making the establishment the losers, and so people will pretend to be, we make it more politically beneficial for them to be like the rebels.
You mentioned that we did mention that in a previous podcast. You just don't have to convince somebody to change their ideas. You just make it more profitable for them to follow your idea.
Exactly. And in Oregon, that's one of the other places that's got a primary happening on Tuesday. Oregon is another state that could be a GOP pickup, in that, let's see, the current Democrat is somebody Merkley, not Merkin, but Merkley. But apparently he's defeatable. And I say he because I think it's a guy. I'm not really sure. And there are, 5 different people running for that primary. Monica Webby is the only one I've heard of, and I think I've heard that she's a pretty decent, pretty good person. I think, in Oregon, you're not going to get a rabid Tea Partier, because a Tea Party Republican is not going to win in Oregon. You kind of have to have a moderate in Oregon, because that's what the electorate is. But, if Oregon can be converted to being a GOP Senate race, I mean, that could be a really good pickup. That could be, and I don't know enough about Oregon to really speak intelligently about that race, but that's one of the ones that once the primary is over, it'll be like Arkansas. It'll be worth paying attention to once November comes around, because Oregon will be where we really need to work to defeat the Democrat. And then that brings us to Georgia, and we happen to have the opportunity to take advantage of our host, Antonio Cunningham, who happens to be a resident of Georgia.
Yes, I am.
So these are his people. And
so I have to follow them in order to even be here, right?
Exactly.
I can't ignore them.
Exactly. So tell us what is happening in Georgia. You currently have Saxby Chambliss.
Right. And he was a decent candidate up until 2006.
Okay.
But in 2006, when the Democrats took control of the Senate, he started voting with Bush. Everything that Bush wanted, he voted for. TARP, he wanted immigration reform. Everything Bush stood for, he stood for. He became an establishment candidate. The problem is, we didn't have anybody to run against him.
Yeah.
Until now. Now he's not running. And since he's not running, he's really turned into a McCain. And
really?
Started attacking Tea Party candidates.
What a jerk.
So we really need to get him. Well, we don't need to get him out of it because he's going out, which is a good thing for us in Georgia. But
Right.
right now, the front runner in we're only talking Republican nomination. We're not talking Democrats because they only
Okay.
have one candidate and they're ignoring the other three, which I think sucks for that side, but I'm not on that side.
Yeah.
Our front runner happened to be another establishment candidate, which let me pull up his name so I know. David Perdue. He is an establishment candidate. It, I
And that's Purdue chicken, right?
have
And Sonny Perdue was the governor?
right.
Okay. But it is Purdue chicken, isn't it? Aren't they rich from chicken?
Well, he's the former CEO of Dollar General.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
he does have money,
Sure.
but I've read 2 weeks ago that he is for raising taxes. That really isn't
That
a
sounds so good.
conservative value.
No, it didn't.
But he has a lot of money. He is the front runner.
Okay.
Up under him is Jack Kingston. He's hit and miss. According to his advertising, he's a real conservative. But as we know, when you look at advertisement, they can say one thing, but they do another.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and in Georgia, because Georgia is not like Maine or Oregon, Georgia's a conservative state. So
Right.
the way to win an election in Georgia is to be believed to be a conservative. Just like, John Cornyn running for Senate here in Texas. You hear all his commercials, and he's like, super conservative man, da, 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 da. And we know the reality is that John Cornyn is at best a squish. But because Texas wants to elect a conservative, and all of the people running races in conservative they're never a Republican, they are a conservative Republican, or they are constitutional conservative Republican, more Republican than anybody you've ever seen in your life, conservative, super conservative, conservative man. And it's
Right.
like, come on. Yeah, but yeah, that's the advertisements.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say I was taken in by the advertisement, but I was willing to kind of settle on him
Uh-huh.
because I was not gonna vote for David Perdue at all. I do
Okay.
not want another establishment. But I watched a video earlier today where he said that he supports an assault rifle ban that was signed into law in 1993. But in actuality, that wasn't an assault rifle ban. It was a ban on the cosmetics of a semi-automatic rifle. And he didn't know the difference. Well, he didn't know the difference. Because technically, there's no such thing as an assault rifle.
No, there's
The
not.
only way to have an assault rifle is to take a regular rifle and assault somebody with it. That
right.
would be
Hit you
an
over
assault
the head
rifle.
with it.
But other than that, there's either
I have a
automatic,
visual of
semi-automatic.
Antonio doing that. Yes, I do now.
Now, the third candidate is Karen Handel. Now, she is a solid candidate. She has a good background. She's not an establishment candidate at all. She actually
Okay.
she worked her way up. She was almost the governor of Georgia, but she fell short.
Oh,
I think she
okay.
would have been a good governor. But I guess I can default to her. She's not my candidate. I'm more of a constitutionalist. Well,
Hmm.
that is the area that I concentrate on. I'm still learning. I'm still a beginner. Well, no, I'm not a beginner. I'm immediate. But
Well, is it possible that what we're going to see happen in Georgia is what happens everywhere, and then there's one establishment candidate, and there are two or three anti-establishment candidates, and they split the anti-establishment vote, and then the establishment candidate wins because though he doesn't have more than half of the vote, he has more than anybody else.
that is the concern. David Perdue has 40% of the vote.
Which means that 60% of the people don't want him.
Right.
But if they
It is.
can't rally around either Kingston or Handel, or who are the other people?
The other two are the Tea Party candidates. There's Phil Gingrey, who I do respect and I do like his values. Then there's Paul Brown, which is somebody who pretty much lines up exactly what I would want to be a senator. He is a constitutional conservative. He is the guy who I would vote for if I had. Well, when I go vote, he is the person I'm going to vote for. But he's at the bottom of the polls. Both of the Tea Party candidates are at the bottom, and David Perdue is sitting on the top.
And that's how we have a hard time getting rid of the establishment, because the establishment will rally behind one guy, like the Democrats do. The Democrats will all rally behind one guy, and we Republicans will be, and Republicans will be around, our 12 different guys, or in our primaries, we'll have our 4 or 5 different Tea Party candidates that attack each other and bloody one another. And it ends up where, okay, I backed Paul Brown, but he lost in the first round, so I'm not going to vote in the runoff, and screw you guys. But Perdue's guys vote for him, and then they vote for him in the runoff, and he wins, because we can't get our act together, and we'll end up with 2 or 3 Tea Party candidates, and they don't. At this point, if you're saying that it's between Perdue, Kingston, and Handel.
Right.
Then
I'm not
seems to me
fond
that,
of Handel, but she got a chance. She has a chance to beat the establishment candidate.
and then Brown and Gingrey should drop out and back her, and decide that, what, the Tea Party candidate or the anti-establishment is more important than my ego, and I'm going to drop out, and I'm going to support this other person. But then again, it's a few days before a primary, and are they expecting this to go to a runoff?
They are expecting it to go to a runoff, and the runoff candidate are the top 3 that I mentioned.
Now, in Georgia, will the runoff be between the top 2, or will it take the top 3? I mean, how do they decide who goes to the runoff?
Last time it was the top 2.
Okay.
So I'm assuming the third person is going to drop off.
Okay. So it'll be Perdue against one or the other, and the key will be whether it's Handel or. You're thinking it's going to be Handel or Kingston against Perdue?
That's my guess, yes. Because she is third place, but she do have a chance to overtake. Let me pull up his name again. I got too many tabs up. I want to make sure I'm perfectly correct. Where is it? Yeah, forgive me. I'm getting used to Ubuntu.
What's okay? I'm looking at this. There's Paul Brown, Art Gardner.
Jack Kingston is the one. He's the second runner. He's the second candidate. And both of them have money from Washington.
Okay.
They have money from Washington backing both of those 2 candidates. Karen Handel don't have any money from Washington, but she has some of the big names supporting her. Like she has what's that lady?
Is that the one that Sarah Palin is supporting?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not fond of Sarah Palin, so that was a knock to me.
Yeah.
But there are some people who do like her, so.
Right.
Yeah, you're talking to one of them.
I like her. I'm not I'm not going to automatically support whoever she supports, but I like her well enough.
And I understand that we should rally behind Karen Handel because she has the chance to overthrow the establishment. But when I have a candidate that actually supports my values and I just ignore them just because someone says they can't win or they're losing the polls, then what's the point of me even having my own values? I have to, if I have a certain values, I need to walk the walk. Well, now, if my candidate don't make it, then I can make a choice to support someone else.
Right, right.
But as long as all 4 is in the race, I'm going to vote for the one who actually is closer to my values. If I'm going to compromise, then what's the whole point?
And that's what you should do. The point is that you've seen this with the last primary elections, and I talked to a lot of people Bear in mind, I didn't vote in the previous elections, despite the fact that I could very well be dead since I am from West Virginia.
You could have
But
voted a couple of times. I mean,
yeah, I know, because that's
well,
the
except
reference to the
you're a
deathbed.
legal immigrant. Never mind. If you were an illegal, you could have voted a couple of times.
Yeah, but I could have been Mickey Mouse, the dead one. So
Right.
there's plenty of
So get
cemeteries around here,
you
so
and
I
the
could have,
kids get out there and vote now.
yeah, put on a dress and pretend that I'm Minnie Mouse.
There you go.
So you would hear this from quite a few people in the last primary, not necessarily in the last presidential election. Let me put it this way: a lot of people did not like Mitt Romney. A lot of people were for Newt Gingrich, for instance, or Rick Santorum. And I did hear quite a few people saying that, you know what, I did vote for Newt. I really liked Newt, but since he didn't make it to the end, I did vote for Romney. However, I did hear a lot more people that turned around and said, well, since X, pick up a name here, Rick Perry or Santorum or Newt was not there, I wasn't going to vote
Herman
for Mitt Romney.
Cain.
But yeah, for McCain, Mitt Romney, whoever. And this is a fundamental issue here with conservatives versus Democrats. A huge difference between one and the other. The Democrats might really like somebody very much, but they
But they
will
like
not.
winning most of all.
Yeah, they will not offer a vote by not voting, because that's what you're doing. If you're not voting, you're offering the opposition one extra vote. You're not offsetting one for one.
Right.
They're not going to offer a vote to the Republican Party by not going to vote there. A lot of people that I spoke to, I actually have a few examples in mind, and these people come from the Google Plus communities. They basically said that, we're pro-life, we're pro-choice, we're liberals, but we're very fiscally conservative. And the last presidential election, we did not vote. And this is yet another part of the mentality that we have to understand. And sadly, a lot of people do not understand this. Uh, the Democrat Party will never vote for Republicans.
No, they
Right?
won't.
They will either support the candidate, whoever that candidate is, even if they don't like that candidate, right? Or they would rather not vote rather than vote for the Republican Party. And there's a lot of rationale behind it. However, I will remind people what happened during Ronald Reagan days, where he actually won with an insane percentage difference over whoever was against him. And that actually proved that Democrats do vote Republican because they rally behind the winner. And the winner was clearly Ronald Reagan. Was he a Republican? Yeah, of course he was. But what was Ronald Reagan's impact towards the whole U.S.? Okay, conservatism, which is one, but more important, he appealed to the pocketbook of everybody in the U.S. Everybody saw that, you know what, this guy might be a Republican, might be a conservative, but his actions are making me richer. He gives me relief from taxes. He makes sure that whatever he did is giving more people more money, empowering them, getting them to work, and we're all better. And of course, the policies that he did over his 8 years, we all saw the outcome when President Clinton got sworn into office. And sadly, a lot of people, and I'm not going to call them misinformed. I'm just going to say that certain people should actually read, basic laws of economy and how economics works. The policies that go into effect 1 year do not take effect immediately. It takes a little bit for those policies to give give the results back. And in terms of Ronald Reagan's, we saw the benefit of all those programs coming at the end of his second term and well into President Clinton's days. And that's why we had the surplus in those years, because of those policies. And President Clinton was relatively smart in a sense that he didn't go against the flow. He didn't completely destroy what was already done. And that was great for the whole of America. Right? And
But
now,
technically, he couldn't because he had a Republican House.
well, he
Well, he
could
had
have
a
had,
Republican Congress.
true, but then again, he could have turned around and said, well, you know what? I got a pen, and what else do I have?
I got a
And I can do
phone,
anything.
yeah.
I got a pen and a phone, and I can actually do anything I want. So he could have said that, but he didn't. Even if he was restricted by the Senate, because you were talking about the Republican House and Senate at the time, even though that was the case, he could have introduced something that would have completely destroyed everything, right? Yet he didn't, and that is where I think President Clinton was extremely smart in not going against the flow and letting things go as they were, and then from then on, everybody benefited. It doesn't matter what kind of flag you're flying, whether it's the blue or the red one. We all prospered. Okay, so people don't realize that we have to become a little bit nationalists here, and I'm going to bring the example of Germany right after the Second World War. Germany was completely destroyed, annihilated, right? The Nazis were in prison, yada yada yada. So that left all the people, the normal people that were there, that were caught into this regime, and they just couldn't say anything, and if whether they liked it or not. So they were left with a totally destroyed country, right? So what they did at the time, the same happens with Japanese people after the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They were working their 8 hours in factories, and then they were working 1 extra hour just for Germany. All right, so if you think about this, normally, I know I'm kind of like deviating. I'm the master deviator in terms of subject here, but where I'm getting at is I'm trying to relay the message of unity that we need to have as Americans, right? So the Germans were actually offering 1 hour of their time to the country so that the country can be rebuilt, and the country was rebuilt very quickly. Compared to any other country. I mean, I'm looking at Greece, and they still have all the debt, all right, from all those years, and more, of course. And the rebuild time of Germany, which was completely annihilated, versus Greece, is like nothing. You cannot compare one to another. So my point is, we should start becoming a little bit nationalists in a good way. I mean, we should start thinking about our country, and whatever decision we make, it should actually be focused about our country and ourselves. Meaning, all right, I've got Antonio. He's running for Senate. Is he going to defend our country? Is this guy going to work for the betterment of this country? Or is he going to be this guy that ensures that a lot of pork is distributed to his crony buddies, or because this is all our money, right? Or is he going to try and bring proper it's not schedule. I'm trying to find the word. Sorry. He's going to bring proper programs into my state that would stimulate growth, that would allow young people to be able to find jobs, that would allow young entrepreneurs to just push the technology forward or bring new ideas and so on and so forth. And with that, we all live better. If you think about it, well, why is, for instance, the price of gas in, let's say, Virginia, 10 miles from now, south, at 3.30, let's say, and in West Virginia it's 3.60. It's because there's a hell of a lot of taxes in West Virginia, right? So if we had this infusion because we voted for Antonio and Antonio is looking after us and he's bringing all these nice innovative programs and all that stuff and we all get better jobs and all that stuff, that 30 cents difference would be less because the state would not need more taxes. So my plea to everybody that's listening is no matter where you come from the aisle, whether you're a libertarian or whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat or whether you're any other Green Party, Blue Party, whatever, Eclair Party or Croissant Party, whatever party that you follow, is try and look at the candidates, the candidates that you would like to support, and see whether these guys are going to be working for you, uh, whether they're going to be bringing quality to your life, whether they're going to be making the U.S. the safest place possible, and whether we're going to be basically working all day long in order to feed the other half of the country.
Well, sadly, the problem with that is a lot of people don't care about politics until it becomes until the big election. But by then, it's kind of too late to choose the candidate who's closer to your values.
Well,
Because
think
the candidate
think
would
about
already be picked by then.
think about just looking at the news right now, and from our own example, just from this evening, for us, when we decided we were going to talk about the primary elections that were happening this coming Tuesday, none, yes, Antonio knew off the top of his head that Georgia was voting, but Nikos and I didn't know what other states were going to be voting or why I should care or what was important about the potential Senate races. And the fact is, there are a couple of Senate races that are going on this coming Tuesday that are important. I mean, we really should be caring enough to make sure that we get good GOP candidates in Oregon and Arkansas that will be able to defeat the Democrat in November. So we really, as concerned citizens of America, we really should have been focused a little bit more on Oregon and Arkansas's primaries to do our part, even out of state, to make sure that the right primary candidates were going to win in those races, that they would be in a good position to defeat the Democrats in November, to give us 2 more Republican senators, which will help the nation to survive the last 2 years of the Obama administration. So there are some very important Senate races and some very important House races and certainly important state races that are happening in the primaries and also then in November. But what do you see in the news? It's all about Hillary and whoever's going to be running for president in 2016. That's all anybody wants to talk about. That's all anybody wants to talk about is who's running for president.
And that's way in the future. We don't need to be worrying about that right now.
And I think that this is a really good thing that's happening. All right, because we as the conservatives, and I'm using this word because I don't want to distinguish between Republicans and Democrats and Libertarians, because the conservative blanket goes on all these 3 political parties. In some cases, the Republicans and Libertarians are a little bit more conservative than certain Democrats, but we as conservatives exist in all of these 3 parties. It is a great opportunity for us, whether you want to call it the Tea Party, whether you want to call it the Coffee Party, whether you want to call it whatever movement there is out there, to actually go and ensure that we elect at a local level, and the local level starts from your local school, right? We elect people that have common sense. I'll give you 2 examples. There is a June election for the city of Ranson, the city council. Okay, I think they have around 10, 12 people around there. Maybe I'm wrong, but out of those people that make decisions, for the city of Ranson. For those that don't know, the city of Ranson is right next to the city of Charlestown, on the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. So it's that little piece of land that borders Virginia and Maryland at the same time. It's a prime real estate for people that cannot afford the insane prices of Virginia and Maryland. They come over here for tax purposes, of course, and that's why we came over here too. Plus, it's nice to see the deer in the back um, of your yard.
Yeah,
Now,
that's always a good thing.
yeah, it's nice. Um, the the point that I'm trying to make is that the city of Ranson has the elections, right? And a person that I know who is um, a businessman, he is young. He's just 30 years old, but he has owned businesses since he was 18 or something like that. Okay, he's been in the business world for years, right? So he knows exactly what the deal is. He knows that if you impose a 1% sales tax here, you're gonna kill 5% of the business of one, two, three, four, five people, right? Because he's in the market, he's right there. He knows exactly what the problems are, and so on and so forth. So when he was talking to those people that are already in the city council, they were, instead of them turning around and saying, "Oh, well, we got a guy that knows a lot more about business than what we do," right? Instead of doing that, they were going like, "Well, he's very young. Seriously, 30 years old, he's very young with that kind of experience." So you have so many people in a city council that none of them has business experience that make decisions for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Explain to me the logic of that. And this is where I'm getting at with the chance that we have here. The chance is because everybody's, the presidential election. We could affect change at a local level, very, very low levels, so that we get people that really understand the problems that John Doe and Jane Doe are facing on our daily lives. So no idiot can come over and say, well, you know what, we just don't have a spending problem. We're just going to need more money, so we're going to increase your estate taxes, instead of looking at ways to save money and so on and so forth. And with that, I'm on a roll here, sorry. And with
Go
that,
ahead, I
West
love it.
Virginia, and with that, West Virginia for the win. It came out yesterday, Antonio. I was talking to you before we started. There is a 17-year-old girl, high school student, that beats the sitting West Virginia lawmaker in a GOP primary. So there's this lady whose name is Sarah Blair, right? Uh, Bear in mind, her parents are involved in politics, so she's not somebody that didn't have guidance and didn't have somebody. But she's 17 years old. At the time of the primary, she will be 18, so she's allowed to run. She went into the primary. She spent something like, what was it, around $4,900 and had a $2,300 loan. And she spent all that money versus the incumbent who was trying to get elected for the third time, and he spent a little bit shy of $2,000. She won by roughly 150 votes. And her message was very, very simple. Pro-life, pro-family, pro-gun rights, pro-business. That's it. That's what she was rallying. She was held by some fellow students of her, where they were waving banners and they were, engaging people and all that stuff. And despite the fact that it was an extremely low turnout, I think around 1,600 people voted out of I don't know how many thousands. This is an extremely good example on how we can start taking the local level and putting people that know exactly what we need and work for us. Because if we do that and we don't have any crazies around here that just want to spend our money and do nothing, then you know what? one of those people will step up and go to the state level. And then the more people are going to the state level, before you know it, we're going to be going to the House, and we're going to go to the Senate, and then it's going to be the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. And then we're going to get rid of all that stupidity that keeps on going around. Oh, we have a nice printing press, a nice mint. We can print as many dollars as we want. Spend, spend, spend. Don't worry about my few $1 million vacation that I needed for, for the 11th time, whatever, this year, or more. So, but let's not forget #bring back our girls.
And now that Nikos
okay.
is taking a deep breath, I do want to say, yes, Dennis, I am seeing your questions here on the Q&A. Dennis Silva is in Brazil, and I don't speak Spanish, so his first question was in Spanish, and I don't understand it. So other than being able to say, yeah, Dennis, I'm seeing your questions, I don't really... And hi, thanks for listening. That's about all I have to say to Dennis, as I can't read his questions since I don't read Spanish. Never even took Spanish in school.
I'm sorry. Our biggest problem is, like you said, we're not united, but our philosophy is that we're for the individual. And the left policy is big government. So they can gather all behind one guy, one idea, one ideology, because that's basically what they believe.
Well, and they just follow the rules and stuff. But it's such a dichotomy, because we will in our primary races and that kind of thing, we will be all about the individual, and we'll have 5 different people running, and we will split the vote, and the establishment guy wins because all of our anti-establishment people fought each other and bloodied each other, and then once it's time for the runoff, everybody hates each other, so nobody's going to support anybody, and it's just ugly and horrible. And then by November, everybody's worn out, nobody cares, and we have a super enthusiasm gap, and we lose because we don't have the turnout. And that's what happened in the Mitt Romney race, and that's what happens in an awful lot of our Senate and House races. But by the same token, we're supposedly so non-top down, but nobody cares about their local races, and all we want to talk about is the president because he's like the king. And what you see on our side so often is any one of our politicians who says something that's not completely stupid, the next comment you'll see from your friend out there is, he should be the president.
But of course.
Trey Gowdy is a terrific guy in the House of Representatives, and he's a terrific prosecutor, and he's going to be really awesome on this special committee or on the special commission, or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is called, the special commission for Benghazi. He's going to be really great, but that doesn't mean he should be president. And there are people out there in the Conservative Union, and I've seen comments outside the Conservative Union as well, people are unable to say, I like Trey Gowdy, I think he's going to be great on this commission. They have to complete that sentence by saying, and he should be president. I like Condoleezza Rice, she should be president. I like Joe Schmo, he should be president. No. I like Joe Schmo, he should be what he is. Or I like Trey Gowdy, he's really good at the job he's doing. He doesn't have to be president. And just because somebody is not an idiot doesn't mean they should be president.
Right.
Herman Cain was a really good speaker and was a really good businessman. He was not intended to be president. He wasn't even a very good candidate.
He was my candidate.
But he imploded, so he wasn't a good enough candidate.
They basically destroyed him. It was a complete lie. He actually proved that it was a lie, but they didn't care. They didn't want him to run against Obama.
You don't really care. So
it's simply not going to happen that your first elected position is president of the United States. That's not. You don't you don't do on-the-job training for being an elected representative as the president. You just don't. I mean, you're not
That's
going to
what's wrong with what's
you're not
going
going to
on
be
right now.
you're not going to be a successful victor in a contest when you've never even done that kind of contest before. But there were an
That's
awful
what's wrong with
there were an
what's going
awful
on in
lot of
politics right now.
there were an awful lot of candidates who were not good enough candidates. Mitt Romney was the only candidate who was good enough to win the nomination, and we know that because he is the one who won the nomination. He was not a good enough candidate to win the presidency, and we know this because he did not win the presidency. And he might have been an awesome president, but in order to be an awesome president, you have to be a successful candidate first. And in
Mhm.
order to be a successful candidate, you have to be able to manipulate the liberal media. And you have to be able to get an enthusiastic voter base to turn out. And that 17-year-old girl, she won perhaps because of her positions, but mostly because of the enthusiasm.
Mhm.
We did not have the enthusiasm. And we don't have the enthusiasm now in our Senate races. 2 years ago, was it? Yeah, it was just 2 years ago. We had the enthusiasm all over the place for our Senate races because I had been posting about Ted Cruz every day for months by now. Y'all were sick of hearing about Ted Cruz.
Y'all.
Yeah, y'all were.
Y'all.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem. We're trying to get a candidate who can win, not a candidate who actually have values. As long as we're trying to get somebody who can win, we're never going to turn the country around and restore it back to its great glory. It's just not going to happen. Not in that way. As long as we're trying to get the lowest common denominator, that's basically what Romney was. He was the lowest common denominator of the Republican candidates.
But just like, was it John Ashcroft who said, you go to, or maybe it was, yeah, it may have been Ashcroft. You go to war with the army you have. You go to an election with the electorate that you have. You can't. It doesn't really matter what your positions are if you don't win the race. You can't govern if you can't win first. And the fact is, we have an electorate who needs to be enthusiastic in order to go to the polls.
But what's
I
the
need
point of
I need a
winning
reason to
if
go to the
you don't have the
polls.
values?
Well, you don't have to not have values. We need people who have both. Right now, we've been focused on the guys who have the values but can't win races. We've done that sometimes. But the Tea Party is I think getting smarter about that and getting better at finding candidates who have the values and the principles and actually have the political savvy and can raise the money and get the sponsorships and get the endorsements and get the voters and get the turnout and do the neighborhood walks and get people to the polls and can actually win the elections too, so that they can prove that they have the principles and the values. We have Mike Lee, we have Ted Cruz, we have Rand Paul. They won their elections because they were and they had a very enthusiastic electorate, and they have good values. It's possible to do both. We just, as voters, tend to get hypnotized by one or the other, or we get apathetic, or we get confused and split up like they are in Georgia between Kingston and Handel and Gingrey and Brown and who's this Derek Grayson and Art Gardner. I mean, there's so many people running in that race that you're going to end up with the establishment guy winning by default.
And that's the problem. That's what we got to fight against.
Yeah. And hopefully after Tuesday, when Perdue and whoever the other person is, if it's Handel, hopefully Kingston would be grown up enough to throw his support behind Handel and get her elected. I mean, do you think Kingston would turn around and support Perdue, or would he support Handel?
He would support Purdue. Yeah, me personally, even though well, let me pull up the name because I want to make sure I say it right. Ah, Karen Handel is a. She can win. She has the ability to win better than Jack Kingston. But if I was to choose between Jack Kingston and Karen Handel, I probably would choose Jack Kingston. But he's a establishment candidate, just like David Perdue. But David Perdue is a total whatever Mitch McConnell, whatever he say, he'll do it. He's one of those kind. There's no way I support him.
Then it would make sense to go for whoever is going to be able to beat him in the runoff. Right?
Yeah, if I had to choose between those three, I would take Jack Kingston.
So it would make...
my personal choice is Paul Brown. He is a constitutional conservative. So that's who I'm going to pull the level for when I go vote.
Yeah. But you're saying there's not really much chance that he's going to be one of the top two?
Not according to the polls.
Yeah. Where is he polling?
He's at the bottom.
Oh. So he's in the House right now, right?
Right.
Is he giving up that job, or is he running for re-election on that too?
I don't know if he's running for re-election on that. I just know he's going for this Senate seat.
Because sometimes they'll run for both, and it's and it's their first campaign to figure out what campaigning is like, and to figure out what kind of campaign staff you need, and what kind of funding you need, and to make the relationships, so that 2 years from now, when you run again, you have the experience. I mean, there's a lot of times that candidates will do that. They'll run a campaign as a learning, as a learning process, so that they can figure out how to win next time. Because
right. He hasn't been in office. He's only been in office since 2007.
Oh, okay. So he hasn't been around for very long.
Right. He haven't been polluted by the politics of Washington yet.
That's good. That's very good.
But Jack Kingston, he's been up there for 22 years.
Oh, he's been in the House as well, huh? Okay.
Right.
So he already is a Washington guy.
Yes. Karen Handel she's right in the middle of the road.
Okay.
Which I guess you can say she is the lowest. Well, in my opinion, she's the lowest candidate running, but she has the greatest chance of beating David Perdue.
So you don't think if a runoff comes down between Kingston and Perdue, you don't think Kingston would win?
No.
Ah.
It's possible, but no. Karen has a far better chance to beat David. But the reason why I say that is more of a politics, not policy, not values. There's the Democrat there running, was it Michelle Nunn? And Karen can completely eliminate the war against women crap from the table.
True.
Because it's two women running.
Right.
And I don't like this. We have to have a woman on our side.
Yeah, I think
if it's a woman, that's a good. It doesn't matter what a woman or man. I don't care. So. I'm concerned about their character. I'm concerned about their values.
But the reality is, if it's a white guy against a black woman, then the black woman is the Democrat, then you know that if you vote for the Republican, it's because you hate women and are a racist. I mean, that's obvious. That's the game, the way the game is played. So.
It's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. It's sad and it's stupid. But I mean, we have a black man that's a president, and anytime you criticize him, it's because you're a racist.
Racist.
Even you, Antonio.
Shame on you, Antonio. Racist.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have been called some names.
Well,
from people I value. Well, people I respect.
Well, you're a conservative and a black man, and so you're not genuinely black.
Yeah, you're just heavily tanned.
Right. Right. You're not. You're
I
not
mean, come on.
really. You're not
The
really black.
absurdity
You're not
of
like Al
certain people.
Sharpton black. You know?
Uh,
Well, and I'm a woman, and I'm conservative, so I'm not really a woman.
no. Remind me to send you $9 for this month so you can get your contraceptives.
No, that's okay. I got Obamacare. I get them free, man. I get them
Good
free.
stuff. Best part I've seen on the and you know me, I've always I'm always looking for the chance to just throw out the $9 contraceptives and Sandra Fluke and all that stuff.
You
Apparently,
mentioned you talk about Sandra Fluck and the $9 contraceptives as much as I talk about Ted Cruz, and I was gonna rip you for the whole Sandra Fluck thing, but then I realized I've talked about Ted Cruz today. So because I've talked
uh,
about Ted Cruz,
I am allowed to,
you're
right?
allowed to talk about Sandra Fluck.
Well, apparently, she had her 2 minutes of fame or 10 minutes of fame or whatever, and then all this brouhaha came over.
Yeah.
But people forgot about her, so they just don't care. And she desperately tries to become relevant. There's some really, really good tweets in twitchy.com, where it's kind of like an aggregator of tweets and replies and all that stuff. And she posted something, don't be bossy or something like that. The campaign that Beyonce was trying um, to start about people being bullied or something like that.
Oh,
And
okay,
first,
right.
the first answer that she got, oh yeah, great, you're against bossy, said the woman that bosses us to pay for her contraception. Uh,
Yeah, there you
and
go.
the second one that I saw was she posted a picture of herself on holidays. I think it was in Fontana di Trevi in Italy. Um, it was definitely Italy, but it might have been close to the Murano factory. Anyway, so it's her on a little bridge, and you see the canal at the back. So it could very well be Venice or something like that. So the caption at the bottom is, uh, doesn't have $9 to pay for her contraceptives. Uh, spends money to go to Italy on vacation or something like that. So,
Right, she can afford it. She can afford a passport and a ticket to Italy, but she
uh-huh.
can't afford. But I have to pay for her contraceptives.
And it you
No,
can, and do not forget, you're not allowed to even question it.
because I hate
So
women.
what? No, no, no. Because what uh, what somebody does in their bedroom, and I totally agree to this, is none of your damn business, right?
Unless they got
Even
drafted for the NFL, and then we have to celebrate.
uh, well, the particular person is probably the only NFL player in the gay community, but that's a totally different story. Um, the what I love is leave me alone. Whatever I do in my bedroom is my own damn business, right?
But you have to
And
pay for it.
but here's the best part. But it is my fiscal responsibility what you do in your bedroom.
Right, right.
There you go.
You're not supposed to. You're not allowed to ask me what it is I do. You just need to write me a check.
You know it, right?
You just need to
Exactly.
pay for it.
That's the point.
Yeah, does not make sense. Does not make sense at all. Um,
Oh, forgive me. I was just reading over the candidates, and yeah, my candidate is the Tea Party candidate.
Paul Brown.
Paul
Is it
Brown
is it
is the
Brown
Tea
or
Party
Brune or Brown? Whatever his name is. Brown.
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 At least that's how I've heard it pronounced
Brown.
over
Just
the
regular Brown.
news. Yeah, he is the Tea Party candidate.
Well, here's hoping that he has a long and prosperous career, even though he probably will not win the Senate this time. And even if David Perdue wins, would he be better than the current Saxby Chambliss?
He will be the same as the current,
Oh,
if not worse.
oh, because he's not old and he'll be there for a long time.
Right. It would basically be the establishment. Nothing would change.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So, yeah, see, we should have been paying attention to the Georgia primary. There it's so I tried to get people excited about this, including myself. I fault myself for this as much as anybody else. At the beginning of the year it was like, okay, what we need to do as Tea Party anti-establishment people, we need to really focus on some of these Senate races during the primaries to see that we can get the best primary candidate possible so that we can have a GOP upgrade. And let's look at and figure out which races we need to focus on. And, had I paid more attention over the last few months, I might have noticed Georgia and said, okay, we need to look at, do we want Paul, do we want Phil or Karen or Jack? Who do we need to really back? Who do we need to really push so that we have that one alternative to David Perdue, so that David Perdue is not the winner? And instead, we didn't really rally behind a guy or girl. And so what happens is Georgia is going to have the establishment guy and the 4 or 5 people that would be better. Any of those 4 or 5 would be better than David Perdue.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly what's going to happen is that any of those 5 who would be better, they're all fighting amongst each other, and none of them will win. And so we'll end up with the worst guy. And David Perdue will end up being the senator. And that's what we do as the non-establishment wing of the GOP. We do this all the freaking time. And this is why it's so hard to take over the party, and we end up with so many of our compadres disgusted and disillusioned and walking away from politics.
Right. They have the money. They have the media on their side.
Right. And we have the lack of organization, and we have the lack of enthusiasm, and we have the lack of coordination, and we let ourselves be bested by these guys who have the machine,
Mm-hmm.
and we let them outsmart us. And then you know what's going to happen. We will see a lot of people complaining about
Of
how
course.
nothing ever changes.
Mm-hmm.
And
And most of
who,
those people did not even bother to go and vote.
right, they didn't vote, they didn't pay any attention, they didn't know that Georgia was having a primary, they had no idea, because during this primary season, they've been focused on
Hillary Clinton.
Honey Boo Boo.
they've been focused on Hillary Clinton and and Chris Christie and Jeb Bush and all of the things that the media wants them focusing on, which is anything other than the Senate primaries. Because guess what? The media knows that the GOP is going to win big in November. And they want to make sure that it's as much of an establishment that wins as possible.
Right.
Because they know that so if I'm a liberal, I'm going to say, okay, here coming in November, I know the GOP is going to win a whole bunch of races. And that really sucks. What can I do to make things suck less for the Democrats? Well, what I can do is I can help the GOP establishment stay in charge, because the GOP establishment is a bunch of weak-kneed guys who will roll over and let us run their lives. So as a Democrat, I prefer the GOP establishment to the Tea Party. So I need to do what I can to make sure that the GOP establishment wins big in November. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distract all these Tea Party guys by talking about Jeb Bush and Chris Christie and immigration and income inequality, and I'm going to distract, so they don't have any time to focus on the Senate races and getting their Tea Party people elected.
Right. And what's going on in the Georgia race? They're a lot of people. They're not even focusing on the Democrat side because they already know who they want to run as the Democrat.
Sure.
But here, you don't have to be a part of a party to vote. So a lot of
you're
those
kidding.
people on the left are actually voting for David Perdue.
Mm-hmm.
And the polls show that even if he was to win the Republican nomination, he's down by what, 10 points to win the election in November.
You're kidding.
So they're saying that Georgia can become a blue state.
Oh,
Interesting.
Lord.
That,
This is how we are outfoxed at every turn, because strategically we are idiots. We absolutely don't know how to play this game.
and a
And
lot of people aren't following politics. Well, they are, but they're not following local politics.
And the Democrats are always, always, always playing the game. They're always fighting. They're always planning. They're always working an angle.
Well, don't forget the what is it? The Operation Battlefield?
Battleground Texas.
Battleground Texas. What was it? Who was it? O'Keefe?
James O'Keefe?
Is his name James O'Keefe? He actually went with his Project Veritas. For those that don't remember, James O'Keefe was the one that basically brought down Acorn.
Mm-hmm.
When he went and pretended to be
he does hidden camera filming stuff.
Yeah, he does a lot of hidden camera. He's the one that went and pretended that he's a pimp, and Hannah Giles was the prostitute. And they went to Acorn to get advice, and the people in there, they were advising them on how to cheat on their tax forms, what they can do. And the absurdity of the video was that they were saying that they were pretending that they had underage girls, that they were basically selling them as prostitutes and all that stuff. And the worker in Acorn had no problem with that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the thing. He also
so what was he doing with Battleground Texas?
He basically went into Battleground Texas, and he got certain confessions of where the money comes from. Planned Parenthood was one of the people that actually donated money to that Battleground Texas. And there was one gentleman that was making a speech, pretty normal speech to basically spice things up and get everybody's creative juices going. And I'm quoting sort of what he said, is that Battleground Texas is not here for now. We're aiming within the next 10 years.
Right.
So the plan is, we don't really care right now if we're going to lose or if we're going to lose 10 times, but we are going to win the 11th.
Right. And this is where we have people like Eric Erickson with Red State who will toss off the fact that Wendy Davis, who is the Democrat candidate in Texas for governor, and she's going to lose, and she's never really been very competitive. And Eric Erickson is one of the many who will toss out he will proclaim that Battleground Texas is a joke because Wendy Davis's campaign is imploding, and nobody needs to worry about it because Texas is a red state and always will be a red state. Well, the fact of the matter is, the Democrats are here. They're opening up offices. They are hiring thousands of people. They are registering thousands of voters. They are getting their candidates in at the fire districts and the school districts and the little city council, and they're grooming Julian Castro, who is the mayor of San Antonio. They are preparing the next candidates. They know Wendy Davis isn't going to win. Wendy Davis she's just a figurehead. Who cares? It's not about the gubernatorial race, and all the Republicans will ever look at is the top of the ticket. They will not even recognize that their counties are being converted into Democrat counties. And then there's going to be state houses and state Senate races that we start losing. And we will lose statewide races. And then we will lose the House of Representatives. And then we will lose a senator. And then we will lose a governor. And then we will be a blue state. And that's how it works. And we'll act as if we were surprised and that nobody could see it coming. And the thing is, they told us in 2013 that they were targeting Texas. And they've been very open about what they're doing. It's all on their website. And yet we have idiots on our side, pundits who get a lot of press on our side, who just go, oh, well, Wendy Davis is going to lose. No big deal. Who cares? You guys, this is how we lose. This is how Colorado was lost.
Yep,
Because the
absolutely.
Democrats play the long game.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for them going, their senator supporting the gun laws, they would have still been in power in Colorado.
Exactly. They went too far.
Right.
They went too far, and thank God. And I think some of what may have woken up the Republicans a little bit is that Barack Obama has gone too far. And he's gone too far with his national socialist stuff that is scaring some people. But, you know, what really bothers me is that, you know, we saw the Tea Party grow, come out from nothing in 2010, and then we were fairly enthusiastic in 2012, and now nothing.
Right.
Mhm.
It's like, you know what? The Tea Party didn't take over the world in 2 years, so screw it. It's like,
And
guys,
not only are we becoming more quiet, we're actually being attacked by some of the candidates that we put in power.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Exactly. It's frustrating as hell. Okay, we've run over by 10 minutes, and I'm trying to keep
Oh
us
my
more
God.
focused and to keep us better on time, you guys, so that any listeners we do have are only having to commit a little over an hour to us every week, because we do appreciate their time, as we
Yes, we
appreciate our
do.
own, and I appreciate y'all. So even though
Y'all.
we had in mind that we were going to talk about a couple of things in addition to our primary politics, we're not going to cover those things. We'll cover those things next week, or maybe not. Who knows? There's always something to talk about, right?
Sure is.
Mhm.
So if you live in Georgia, vote on Tuesday. Or if you, okay, wait, more than Georgia, Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, Georgia, and Oregon. Vote. Vote in your primaries. Vote Tuesday.
Get involved. Not only vote, go out there and see if you can get one or two more people to actually get involved with your voting.
Grab your neighbors. Take your neighbors with you. A little kidnapping is okay. Little, little light kidnapping, you know, buy them a cup of coffee on the way home. But you're not paying for their vote. You're just buying them a cup of coffee on the way home. Because paying for somebody's vote. Vote early. Vote often. Vote as many times as you can. Have all your dead relatives vote along with you. Because, you know, voter ID is racist, and that's about it, right? So I'm going to conclude the show and say thank you, Nikos and Antonio. Thank you very much, Antonio, for giving us the rundown on Georgia. And next week, it'll be 2 days after the election, so you're going to have to tell us all about the fight, all about the fallout, and who pulled whose hair at the concession speeches and stuff like that. I'm hoping for some good fights. And so that's going to be it for this episode of CU Talks. You can find us on our website at conservativeunion.net. Subscribe to the show so it's automatically downloaded to your podcast catcher via iTunes or Stitcher. You can also subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Join us next week, Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern and 9 o'clock Texas time for an hour of conversation with real people from real places in America, not DC and not the media. Thank you, guys.